That quote, man, I tell you what are you thinking about when you're not thinking?
Oh, it's huge.
It's
huge.
Because I remember the day when we were sitting outside the winery, actually, it was a year and a half ago.
Right where we were sitting.
And
outside the front door to the right.
Right. Yep. And I was sitting there and you were going actually over you had a speech written and we were listening to it. We were going through, and I was just going through so much stuff mentally because I was at a job, obviously, that I hated, the podcast, but just things weren't happening. And I was just sitting back and it was like, oh, son of a gun. And we were just having a good discourse. We were having good dialogue. And then all of a sudden, I went on a tangent that had nothing to do with anything that we were talking about. And I got like instantly like drained mentally and emotionally. And you were just in normal conversation, just talking like, well, this, that, what about this? Have you tried looking into this? Maybe get a sign, bring it here to how can I help you? And things like that. And I was like, yeah, I don't really think that's the issue. And then you asked me like, well, it's important. Like, what are you thinking about when you're not thinking? And like, right when you said it, it was almost like yeah, that's so true. Because when you're not thinking about anything, what are the thoughts that you have? And I think a lot of people, when they sit back, they're pretty evil. They're evil. I would say at the thoughts I were having were evil. They were very dark. They were very, you're not good enough. And like not thinking about just things like that, where you're like, that is a very crazy mindset to have. Because when you're just sitting there trying to be in your own thoughts, and those are the messages that you're thinking about and repeating to yourself. It's crazy. So that concept of like, what are you thinking about? Whenever you say it, it just instantly takes me back to that place and where I am now. And it's like, man, I hope someone has that same realization that I did. Like just by saying it because we say it it's not every podcast. Somehow it pops up like one here, a couple months go by, another one pops up. And man, I hope someone hears that and it resonates and they can go, what are you thinking about when you're not thinking? Because when you start thinking about it and you're like, well, I'm thinking about this right now. But there's a moment when you're not thinking about anything and you're alone with your thoughts and man, it gets scary and you're like, whoa, what's going on? That's the moment where are you living a positive life or are you living a negative life?
Man, Ralph.
Yeah.
This is powerful because you're talking about rationalization here.
Yeah.
Do you know that? Because like I say before, like if a young person's working in a job that they hate, don't stay there too long because you'll get good at it and you'll be paid forever to do something you hate, right? And what happens is if you're doing something you're hating, you have to rationalize to yourself of why am I sticking with this, right? Why am I just day in and day out doing something that I hate to do, not living up to any of my potential? So it must be that I'm just a pile of crap.
Exactly.
Right. You know how people have to rationalize their actions? Everyone has to rationalize what they do, but you also have to rationalize your inaction. So if you don't take action on your dreams, you're going to convince yourself you're not good enough. The moment you take action on it, now you have to rationalize that action. So you're going to rationalize, I must have the ability. Look what I did. I took the first step, right? I mean, and this is that silent dialogue in our minds that are going on all the time. I'm going to do a talk on that one, Ralph. That is really good stuff right there.
Because it's scary, man. Because for a long time, again, like, and I owe a lot. Like I say, I talk to my family all the time. Like, there's just like you as like a business mentor. There's just a lot of. Wait, do you have to take that? I'm sorry. No. Okay. There's like one thing that you've taught me too is just learning to listen. And like actually listen, because there's one thing to keep your ears on and just be like, yeah, and then like you're not absorbing anything. Making that switch of actually listening. That's why I feel like I not nitpick, but I feel like I like try to dive in onto what you say sometimes because it's just that involved where it's like, yeah, because truly when you're truly listening, and I think for other people that are listening to this, you'd be shocked how much you can just simply learn one about somebody, one about your surroundings, and then just a business in general. Like people will tell you anything without even realize what's going on. And you're just absorbing and you're just this human sponge of information that you could just then incorporate into your own life. And that's another thing so like the energy and successful living, it's like because of you being so happy, energetic, alive to live life leads to your success and it helps you build your foundation and your success of where you're at now. In return, people get to feed off of your success, like myself, and looking at it to adapt it into my life. And it's just this never ending. And this time it's not a vicious circle. It's this positive
circle spiraling upward.
Yeah, it's just going upwards. And it's just like, why isn't everybody doing this? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's crazy to think about, dude. I have goosebumps, and I don't get. It's just like it's just crazy to think about how simple and easy it really is to just be on fire for life.
Yeah, it's taking the steps. It's stepping out of the comfort zone. It's not letting life wash over you. It's moving. It's going against the waves. It's using your potential and purpose. You know, back to listening real quick. People think listening is a passive thing where you just casually do it. Listening is the most active, intense thing that you could possibly do. And if you're truly listening to someone, you can reiterate back to them going, so this is what I think you mean. And they'll go, yep, I understand that. Remember one of the podcasts we talked about, if you want to communicate with your wife perfectly clear, only speak when you can summarize their position back to them and they agree that you understand their position, then you can speak. That will make communication crystal clear. Because in order to do that, you have to be actively listening to be able to summarize it back to them.
Yep.
But yeah, you know, listening it's not a passive thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. If this was going to be a quick one, I knew that just every time I hear that quote, and I'll call it out too, every time I bring it up. What are you thinking about when you're not thinking? Anytime you say it, that's just a quote, dude. That's like when you really think about it and you really absorb it and sit back and think about it. Anybody watching this, I hope you get that same, I don't know if you call it a fire. I don't know. But I just hope that you get that same instance, that same reaction that I got from hearing it for the first time and then actually resonating on that, because dude, that changed my entire outlook on life for the positive and is why I'm here. You know what I'm saying? It's just something so simple as that. It's like, true. Like that is such a true statement. Man, I just hope someone, if we're impacting the world, we are, because I know we are. We get emails all the time. But if someone could get impacted by that one quote the same way, shoot me an email. I'd love to just, I hope to God that it affects your life in that way. Hopefully for the positive.
Yeah. I'm going to do a talk on that. What you're thinking when you're not thinking is the rationalization phase of our life. I really think that's what's happening. When you're not really thinking, you are rationalizing yourself of what's going on with your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're your worst critic.
Right.
And that can be scary.
Right.
So if you're thinking negatively, same thing as you always, negative on the outside gets on the inside. If you rationalize your own living and you have a negative way to live, man, what you're rationalizing in your head is not a positive. It is not. It's just plain and simple. It's not a positive message. It's the exact opposite, and it's scary.
So with you, Ralph.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Thanks, Randy.
Thanks, Ralph.